I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man,
I just
that
said
is a
clown.
sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom. All right. We're getting started with another episode here. I have a guy, he just told me he's low tech and he's vanilla, but my opinion of this guy is he's got a really great story. And I actually think he's just done a great job supporting the men of F3 Omaha. I know every time I'm next to this guy, I'm encouraged and inspired to just be a better man. So Ozark is who I have the pleasure of talking with today, and you do look good, even with when you had those headphones on, you still managed to pull it off. So I don't know how you do that, but Ozark, would you maybe just start us off with kind of the beginning? Who EH'd you? How'd you get started, and how'd we land on the name Ozark?
Yeah, thanks, Plague. Before we get too far into this, I want to make sure I really understand what's happening here. Now, am I being recorded?
Yes.
All right. So about that, I'm going to need you to electronically sign an NDA.
Okay.
So I'll pull that out. We could do that at the end.
So I can't share any of this. Did Gator tell you
Privacy
to do
is
that?
extremely important to me, Plague.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
Did Gator tell you to do that NDA thing?
No. He's got no good ideas. You know him. So.
Yeah.
No, I thought of that on the. So where to start? Let's see. Gator EH'd me, and that's a fun story. He lives two doors down from me, and he started in April of 21, and come to know Gator a bit through as a result of COVID. Pre-COVID, we really didn't. I mean, two ships passing the night story, right? We're all working. I'm traveling all the time. He's working over in wherever. I mean, Quad Cities. I don't know where. I mean, so over in Iowa somewhere. So, we just wouldn't see each other that much. And but through COVID, we got to spend more time in the driveways together, that kind of thing. Got to know each other in that way. Then he tells me about how he's started this workout group he's been spending time with, and we'd go on runs together once in a while, and he'd describe it further and further. And okay, that's great, but I'm busy. At the time I'm working a lot, and I'm coaching both of my kids' baseball teams in the spring, and so I said once that's over with, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Then July rolls around. It's a classic. Okay, I need to do some push-ups and sit-ups. From what you're describing, this sounds like way too much for me to just dive into the deep end. So give me a few weeks to kind of and then mid-August rolls around. Yeah, I know, but it's hot, and yeah, I need to just give me another week or two. So finally, I'd run out of excuses, and frankly, I'd run out of patience too with myself. So I went to an annual conference in early September, right after Labor Day, and in Vegas, of course, and I'd promised him that I'd go to the Saturday workout once I returned. So I landed on Friday evening after 4 days in Vegas at a conference, right? That goes. So, and yes, I'm going to go on Saturday to what is now known to me as Dragon Slayer. So we go, and and Khakis was on the queue, and as it would be, it was September 11th, and so we're running around doing our thing, right? And Khakis just partnered up next to me. We went up to the high school, to the grass field up there by the high school, and we were doing all kinds of things up there, running around and so on. Khaki spent a fair amount of time with me up there. We just kind of saddled up next to each other as we're running around, and I got to talk to him for quite a bit. So then came his COT, which was around September 11th, and at that point it was the 20th anniversary of it. And talking later with Gator was interesting. about the September 11th topic was that, you know, it impacted me differently than it did Gator. You know, at the time I was 30 and, you know, full of piss and vinegar and all that. And, you know, when that happened, it really, really impacted me. And I feared for our country in a lot of ways and so on and so on. And that was a tough day. It really was. And Gator and I've talked about it for hours, and it's one of those, it impacted him differently. But hearing Khakis codify his feelings about that day really struck me. I mean, frankly, had me in tears. I hadn't cried in a long time. So it was one of those special draws for me. It really, really pulled me in. So, you know, that was one of those, wow, that was a wow moment. And I could use some more of this, you know, and that's one of the big reasons I came back, frankly, was, I was going to spend some time and give it a good shot with Gator, but because of Gator's draw. But, you know, hearing that first COT from Khakis was really instrumental. So there's that. Why he named the Ozark. So you know how it goes. It's the you're in the circle. I really don't have any idea what's happening. And just tell us a little about yourself. Well, okay, so there's this and that and the other. And then I moved from Illinois, where I grew up, and we moved out to Oregon and to Portland. And we had our children out there, and life was good. And then life became not as good for a number of reasons, and I went into them. But eventually, and amidst all of this, people start shouting out things like, because I said, you know, Portland, some things like, you know, pothead, Dimebag, you know, all this stuff. And Khakis just like, we're not calling him Dimebag.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad that's not your nickname.
Yeah. And so it was kind of like going down, and it's like, and then Portland just changed. It changed, and it got to the point where I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I could take care of my family in the way that I feel comfortable. It was way out of my comfort zone, and it was just time to leave. We had to get out of there. So I really started looking for jobs. I want to get back to the Midwest, closer to my parents, raise the kids in a similar way that my wife and I were raised. And, you know, eventually landed the job here and so on. And that's great. That's kind of the short of it. And so he just had in that classic Khaki stare as he's standing like 3 inches from you. You know, he's staring right at your face, and I'm looking out at the crowd. And he goes, "You're Ozark."
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, you know, right out of the television or that Netflix show. So with Marty Byrd. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Was it?
So I love too, if you guys haven't seen your Byrd Family Marathon shirt, if you see Ozark wearing that, check out the sponsors on the back. If you watch the show, you'll get a kick out of it. Of course, I thought it was a real. I was like, "Oh, when did you run that?" And you're like, "Plague, it's not real. It's a." So were you, before all of this? Well, I guess remind me how many you have. 2 kids, or how many
2
kids?
Children, yes.
Okay.
A son in high school, a sophomore, and a daughter is in 7th grade.
Okay. And how long ago did you move here?
The summer of 17, so just over 6 years.
Okay. So you've been here for a while, but they were fairly young, or like almost middle school age when you moved here. Okay.
Yeah.
And were you like sort of leading up to that, or growing up, what was your sort of fitness journey like? Like, have you always been a runner, or what's been your go-to?
Yeah. Runner, yes.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm, like a lot of us in my era. You know, in the Midwest, we grew up on farms that my mother grew up in and her mother grew up in the same house, all that stuff, right? So, I honestly spent a lot of time by myself growing up. You know, out in the fields working, in the machine shed, and worked a lot alongside my dad, quite a bit. So, not knowing, you know, what that would do, both for me and to me, frankly, you know, as I aged.
Hmm.
And small school, you know, and so I was able to play in every sport that we had. We didn't have all of them, but we had some of them. And so, you know, when there's 6 guys in your class, you play everything, even if you're not any good at it, you play it so we can have a team.
Yeah.
So I was constantly playing all the different sports and enjoyed it. But uh, my, one of the aspects, my physical aspect that really stood out was my speed. And
Mm.
as I through middle school and then well into high school, once you really physically develop, um, running was my thing.
Mm.
So I ran track uh, in high school and made the state, made the state finals as a senior, and so that I ran the half mile, I ran the mile, and I ran the quarter were my big events.
Nice.
And then as I aged, in college, and I was I honestly wasn't burned out, but I'd had enough of sports. Honestly, I'd played
Yeah.
so much for so long. It's like, I'm not going to be paid to do any of this stuff. So it's time to go get an education. So that's why I went to University of Illinois rather than go into like a D3 situation. So, but I continued to run off and on. And then in my about age 30 roughly, I really started picking it back up again and running relays, like what do we have, like a mark to market or whatever we call it here, that from Lincoln, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff I'd run all the time. And when I moved out to Oregon, just kind of runner's mecca. It was great. I could run trail runs from my house. I just run 3 blocks and all of a sudden you're on trails in the middle of the woods. It was just wonderful. I've run marathons. I've run hood to coast with relay, I don't know how many times. Um, so there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I moved here, uh, I really was focusing on my job. It was a classic, this company paid to move my family and me halfway across the country. And I needed to hit the ground running and perform. And
Yeah.
so I put a lot of energy and time into that. And so, physically I was not what I used to be
Hmm.
in my 30s and even into my early 40s. And so that's when Gator picks me up.
So do you have other family here, or you moved your wife and kids here? And no, okay. So curious, like as you, because you mentioned a little bit about what the farm, working and growing up on a farm did for you and to you. You mean in terms of just long term, like your body, or like what do you mean by that? I guess.
So, I mean, and of course, this is all things you didn't even realize and kind of take for granted, right? Is that um, for years I just had what I think of now as farmer strength. I was as skinny as a rail, but I could pick anything up and carry it around.
Mm.
Is maybe the one of the things I think of, because when you're young, you're always moving from apartment to apartment and all that good stuff. And um, I never had any back issues, nothing like that. It was just kind of like you just do it.
Yeah.
The other thing would be endurance, and I came to realize that again later in life when I explained what I was doing in track in high school, and I'd come in and be able to run the mile. Uh, After building no base over the winter, I'd be playing basketball, and all of a sudden I just pick up and run a
Yeah.
mile. Your first mile, you just run sub 5, and the track coach would just shake his head like, "What?" you
That's
know.
crazy. Yeah.
So things like that, and it carries it all the way through. Then until it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
It's classic. If you don't use it, you lose it, and eventually, that's kind of where I was in my early 40s. Was just like, uh, you know, and I was fine physically, totally fine, but it was just kind of like I'd like to be strong again. I remember what it felt like, and I'd like to feel like that again.
Yeah. How has it been as you've gotten back into it? Have you been able to avoid injuries and stay fairly healthy? You feel like you're seeing some improvements there? Or?
Yeah, I have some, you have issues here and there, but my biggest thing, honestly, is staying loose. I
Hmm.
really have to stretch out a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, in my early 40s, I never had to stretch out at all. It was fine. Now I'm stretching out all the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one change. I did tweak my shoulder about almost 2 months ago now, and it's just not healing. And I'm doing this
Hmm.
and the other, and it'll come around.
Yeah.
But things that didn't used to ever set me off are, happen from time to time now. So,
Yeah.
no, thankfully I've been able to stave off, serious injury. Um, and part of it, which again, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done any of this, is I'd really listen to my body more than I ever have. I used to just put my head down and push through it. And I just don't do that anymore. So
Yeah.
if something's hurting, you just stop, until it doesn't hurt anymore. So.
What about from as you think about like the second F piece, right? So you're in Omaha, trying to probably building relationships at work, right? Because they moved you here, and then you've got this, this neighbor with just this flowing hair and a really big head and a charismatic approach to getting you into this group. I mean, how has building relationships gone for you as you've joined F3? Has that gotten better, or how have you found some of those relationships?
Sure. It's one of those. So Gator, when he was on your podcast, I mean, he spoke to that, the idea of moving here from elsewhere and not knowing anyone. Frankly, it was challenging to develop relationships outside of work, or the crazy people that live around you, right? So no, I say that tongue in cheek, of course, but outside of that, those that really have similar interests, beliefs, viewpoints, that kind of thing. It's very difficult. I found it more difficult moving here than anywhere else I've moved over time. So, and it could have been stage of life, could be any number of things, right?
Yeah.
Could have been COVID. I mean, it's all that stuff. So, ironically, I had this conversation with Wait Time early on. I was, Gator insisted that I go to a Respect pop-up. This would have been back in September of 21, back when it was the old Paradise location. I call it Paradise Lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was queuing, of course. He was just kind of getting this Respect thing going, and he and I were the only ones at the pre-run. Vandalay clearly must have been out of town.
Yeah.
So, so we were on this pre-run together, and the conversation turned to this. He and I both moved here from elsewhere, and we both recognized that it was difficult to meet people, and get to know them and befriend them. And part of it is there's so many people that are from here who have family and friends they grew up with and went to college with, all the good stuff. So, their circle's already complete from their perspective. So the F3, okay, and the men I've been able to meet has just been extremely meaningful to me and to Gator, and I think and to many others that are moved here from elsewhere. So it's allowed me to meet and spend time with like-minded guys that we just have fun, right? You just get your exercise in and have fun, and like Wait Time says, it's just recess for grown men. I mean, that's really what we do.
I'm sure, it's funny to me that you got to interact with Khakis at that first workout. And I remember, I don't think I was there, but I remember his COT around 9/11 must have been pretty impactful, because I remember a few other people sharing or commenting on it at that time. But what was that Respect pop-up like? Did that was that something that you found helpful? I mean, have you been able to keep going to those, or what's that been like?
Yes, yes. So I went to them regularly until I became a site Q, because our Labyrinth meets on Thursdays, and that's when the Respect pop-ups are. So, one of the agreements I made with Gator was that Respect pop-up that I really wanted to attend, he would take the flag and handle Labyrinth. So there were, I'd pop into Respects every so often, so I could stay plugged into it all.
Nice.
It's super enjoyable. We just had one this morning, and it's just it's a slightly different feel, and it has nothing to do with the pace or anything, but it's just kind of, guys are all at your similar stage of life, and have some similar perspectives that you might have. And I want to, I get to interact with guys that I wouldn't normally interact with based upon where I post and where they post. And so once a month, we're all kind of congregating at that central location at Burke. And, you know, that's kind of how we stay connected.
Yeah, no, I love that. I led a workout yesterday and I made the mistake in my Name-A-Rama video of saying, you know, there were even some respect guys here. And we did Burpee Island, so we ran 3 miles and did
Well, they talked about it today. Yeah.
we did 100 burpees. And so I was I don't know, a lot of guys don't like that workout, but it's just something I've done for years at Paradise. But I've really found it, you know, like my dad doesn't live here, and I have different beliefs than my dad, and so just trying to build positive mentoring relationships with guys that have gone through more of life and made some of these decisions that I'm trying to make. You know, I'm curious from your perspective, has there been an opportunity for kind of that whetstone mentoring relationship, or how have those things gone from your perspective?
Absolutely. There have been, and they pop up often.
Mm-hmm.
And um, early in my F3 days, you know, I would listen a little bit and then I just start talking, and came to realize that's not it, you know. So what I've tried to do, and once I figured out, you just need to shut up and listen and
Mm-hmm.
take it in, and let the guy just go, you know.
Mm.
And if he asks me my opinion or what I think, I'll let him know. And what I try to frame it in a way that it's a positive, upbeat, you know, you've got opportunity ahead of you, and this is it, you know. And or I've been there, you know, I've been in the trenches, you know. It was a long decade. I get it, okay, but you can come out the other side. You really
Mm.
can. You know,
Yeah.
you stick to what you believe in. You stick to what's right, you know, and you're going to have to sacrifice some things that you really want to do and like to do, you know. But if you focus on the right aspects of life, in my opinion, in the end, it's going to work out. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that my grandfather used to tell me, that he was the farmer, lived to age 96, and smoked 2 packs of Pall Malls, Camel Straights a day for 40 years.
Nice. Okay. He's
Until
defying all the
Camel
odds.
came out in '69 and said probably shouldn't do that. He
No.
just dropped them overnight. But some of the words of wisdom he used to share with me was, you know, you've got to you know, you've got to be yourself. You've got to be yourself, and you've got to be true to yourself, and you've got to take care of the people close to you. And when you do that, life will work out.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
It kind of fits into that concentric model, right? Of like the people in closest proximity, you're going to have the biggest impact on, right? I mean, I think that fits really well. I'm curious your thoughts on sort of the shield lock aspect too. I feel like a lot of guys get some benefit out of that. Is that something you've been able to find a shield lock of guys within the group?
been hugely beneficial to me and to the other members of the group. My shield lock is, I was blessed to be asked by Wait Time to be in his shield lock shortly after they'd put it together. So it's Vandalay, Chicklets, and I, Wait Time and I,
Nice.
are in a shield lock. And so, yeah, it's been great. You know, we're all basically the same age, within about a year or two of each other. So, ironically, Wait Time and I are something like 6 weeks apart in age, and we grew up probably, you know, 80 miles from each other, or something
Oh,
like
wow.
that, you know. Yeah, you know,
Cool.
and you know, the classic Big Ten basketball, the Hoosiers and the Illini, you know, all that stuff we could talk about for days, and do sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know, what we've taken to doing is, we choose a day of the week that we will meet. It's typically a Friday, just based upon the way the schedules work, you know, and we'll work out together at one site. We try to rotate that site around based upon whatever's going on in each other's lives, and then we skip the group coffee, and just the four of us go have coffee together. So
Yeah.
it's that simple, you know. And there are other, you know, we try to work out together at different points of the week also. You know, it's not every day, it's just whenever you can make it, kind of thing. And so that's worked out really well. Now we also get together. We've tried to. Doesn't always work, but each quarter just do something fun together, and whatever it is, like go to Top Golf on a Friday afternoon or whatever.
Yeah.
Go play golf. We've done that a couple of times. So, and that's been good to do also. We've gotten together with our spouses from time to time also. So all that has been meaningful time together, a meaningful way to bond. When you see these same men at the same time every week, and you just grow closer and closer and closer, you get to understand the details of each other's lives so much more deeper. And as a result, over time, you can come to rely upon these other three men and trust that they love you in a as Wait Time talked last week, philia, in a brotherly love way, not judgmental way, that you can really get vulnerable. That for the first, I'm going to call it 6-9 months of F3 for me, hearing guys giving those COTs, I'm shaking my head like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to open up like that about some of these topics that these guys are talking about. And I've found I'm still not quite there for some of the stuff, but with my shield lock guys, I can.
That's awesome.
I feel good about doing that in that space.
Yeah. Have you had that any other time in your life? Do you feel like, have you had that sort of level of commitment and friendship and accountability?
Yes. There's a couple of different times. One would be in my late 20s, early 30s. There were some guys similar age. We had a Bible study group that we'd meet on Wednesday evenings, and we just do that. We just read through a book of the Bible, one chapter at a time, and just spend time discussing it.
Yeah.
So that really allows for that kind of it's a platform for that.
Yeah.
Another time in my life would have been right around the same time thereafter is I had a group of guys that we would run with every Saturday morning, no matter the weather. We would meet at 6 a.m. at the same place, or we'd go run trails or whatever it was. And I was always the youngest guy. Most of the guys were 8 to 10, 15 years older than I at the time.
Yeah.
It was a great way. It was a mini F3, frankly.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
It really was. It was a great way for me to hear these guys, what's going on in their lives, the struggles they're having, either at home or professionally or whatever it might be, and soak that all in.
Yeah.
Because when you go run 15, sometimes 20 miles with guys, you got a lot of time to talk.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'm curious your thoughts on, like, how important is that, because like F3 is great, right? We love what we get to do every morning, and we love the guys, and we're trying to keep numbers, manageable at sites. But quite frankly, right, if you're showing up to all the shovel passes and VQs with 40, 50 guys, right, you're not getting a deeper level of connection. But from your experience, I mean, how crucial is that sort of smaller group to sort of mental health and just well-being for men? I mean, what would you say?
I think you really hit on something. I mean, you hit on a nerve for me that I didn't know, didn't realize it until I realized it. And when I was first starting out, we'll call it a couple of years ago, the most of the sites out west, the groups were relatively small. I think maybe the Maze at the time had some 20 plus type numbers, but most of these sites you go to, it'd be 8 to 15, and it was just like, as to your point, it's just a different feel than once you've got north of 2025. It's a totally different feel. So I'm a proponent in small men's workout. I mean, small men workout. So it not small men's small workout. I'm a big proponent of it, which is one of the reasons Gator and I wanted to do the Labyrinth. We wanted to provide a place where we realize you probably aren't going to get big numbers consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's absolutely a-okay. One. And two, with the smaller numbers and you're running, you could actually talk to people for an extended period of time and get into some good, deeper level conversations if you so choose.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm a big proponent of it, and I get that we want to celebrate our success, and the flag passes, the anniversaries, the birthdays, and all that good stuff. Yes, yeah, absolutely. But to your point, I can't do 3 of those a week.
Yeah.
That's not, that's well, I can, but I'm opting out of 3 of those a week.
Yeah.
To your point, I really want to have good, meaningful conversations with guys if I can.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's just something we got to keep an eye on, right? And keep starfishing if sites get too big. But you kind of mentioned doing a Bible study back in college, but I think just to kind of segue into that third F piece, what's been your journey from a third F, and maybe how has F3 helped you grow or reinvigorate pieces of that? Anything there?
Yeah. So that's a good one. I mean, I'm the type of guy that will just, I can get buried in work and just stay in there,
No.
in that place, and come up for air and take care of my wife and kids, and that's it. I mean, that's what I was talking about, vanilla. I mean,
Yeah.
and I can be totally content there. I just can, until of course you're not, right? So I had to be careful of that. And when I was younger and before I had children, I was doing a lot in the community. I was really active in my church. I was really active in the food pantry and the Habitat for Humanity, and those kind. I was on boards and raising money and all that kind of stuff. And then you have kids, and I'm working a lot, and then that kind of goes by the wayside. Well, the nice thing about F3 is the third F. There's so many things you can just plug into,
Mm-hmm.
and at the last minute if you wanted to. And I really like that. I took my son to the house painting, the brush up
Oh
on
yeah.
Saturday, and we did it last year also. And he actually asked if we could do it again this year. So I was absolutely, so those kinds of opportunities, if I weren't plugged into F3, we wouldn't do them,
Mm-hmm.
because I wouldn't be aware of them, because I wouldn't be seeking them out.
Yeah.
And that's shame on me, but by having this platform like it's set up, I love it. We can plug in when we so choose,
Yeah.
when we can. So.
What you mentioned earlier, sort of the moving your family back to the Midwest to sort of raise your kids a certain way. How's that going? I mean, I guess, do you feel like you've been able to sort of move that forward in the right direction? And would also be curious, like, as F3, I mean, it sounds like you're able to get your kids maybe involved in some community service stuff, but just how's that going today? Do you feel like you're achieving that or being successful there?
Yeah, overall, yes. The education is important to my wife and I, and there are a lot of good schools here. There just
Mm-hmm.
are. And in Oregon, this was one of the deciding factors. In Oregon, they used to have the best public school system in the country in the 80s, and Portland did, and for a decent sized city. And it's not. It's terrible now. And that was a very important variable for us. So we're overall very happy with the way Elkhorn's public schools are working. Frankly, they're busting at the seams, and they're just
Yeah.
struggling to keep up because it's growing so quickly. So we weren't anticipating that, because the Elkhorn South, where my son attends, it's huge. It's way bigger than we were anticipating for him. So and for me anyway, that's the one drawback
Yeah.
from our move. Now, they had a very good experience, both at the primary school and middle school. So, there's nothing I can say negative about there. We've been very pleased. A lot of activities, met a lot of people. playing the sports and all that good stuff. So, and they're around the type of mindset that my wife and I hoped that our children would be around, right? Because environment plays a role in how people are molded. So you can do a lot at home, and it goes a long way, absolutely. But there's also the environment that once they step outside the front door. So we've been pleased with a lot of that. We really, really have.
Yeah, I love that. And I heard there are maybe plans, or at least they have the land for a fourth Elkhorn High School. So between Elkhorn, Bennington, and Gretna, I mean, they all keep growing. I'm curious, within your experience and within your life, what do you think are maybe one or two key experiences or stories that maybe you've been able to share with other guys, like a key learning or something that you feel like has just been impactful that you've maybe worked through or been able to overcome that you've been able to share with other guys?
That's a good question. Well, there's a couple pivotal points in my life. One was I was in my mid 30s. I was about 34, living in Illinois in Champaign, and I was a financial advisor. Series 7, all that stuff. I don't know what they're called today. I started out as a stockbroker, and then I was named an investment broker. Then I was an investment advisor, and then I was a financial advisor. I kept doing the same thing, but branding is everything. So, but I did that for about 9 years and really enjoyed it in Champaign, Illinois. So there's that. But I got into the kind of the 7-year itch thing where it's like, well, I need another challenge. At that age, I just wanted the next level of challenge. So there's that. And my wife and I had come to realize that Champaign, well, it's good. Chicago's too big, and we came to realize that Champaign is a little too small. So, what do you do about that? You've got a successful business, everything's working well, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, yeah, this isn't really what we envisioned for ourselves long term. I'm like, I can't explain what a mutual fund is for the next 30 years. So over and over every day, really. So, I mean, then what do you do, right? You're at this crossroads, and we spent a long time, digging through that and figuring that out together. And long story, but we decided to move to Oregon, and it had a lot of what each of us was looking for, and it was great. It was when we moved there in 2005. It was a special place, unique, special place. But that was a really tough decision to leave a successful business that you built behind. I mean, nobody paid me anything for it. I just left that income stream and all those assets under management behind, and to start anew. But it was the right thing to do. It was time for the next chapter in your life. It was a tough decision to make, but it was the right decision in the end. So I guess one takeaway there is, if you search your heart and your wife and your Em, and you go through that search and that thought process together, and you come to the conclusion, and it's a major change, but you're making it together. Make it together. Because all it did was solidify my marriage even further.
Did you switch industries, or went out there and did financial planning, or did you completely change career paths?
I completely changed career paths. So I went to work for an insurance company out there that was based out of Portland, and was trying to figure out a way to kind of get in. They were getting into the financial advisory business, frankly. And so I just want to get into the company and, hey, I know a little something about it, kind of thing. And interestingly, they never bit. And again, thankfully, because in the end, it didn't go well for them. They ended up selling it, of course. But as a result, I got into a different aspect of investing, and it was institutional investing, and it's commercial lending. And commercial lending for insurance companies' balance sheets. And I love it. And that's what brought me out to Omaha, because I'm working for Mutual of Omaha. And one of the ways we invest the premiums that come in the door is we lend them on, commercial buildings, apartments, industrial buildings, grocery stores, things like that. So
Yeah,
that's what I do is I go out and find those loans pretty much for the western half of the U.S.
that's cool. Yeah, I love that you shared that because I think so many, I mean, just the relationship that men have with their work, I think it always comes up, right? It's always, there's always something going on, or, and I feel like so many guys are in this space, right? Where they're like, I feel like making a transition. I don't know how to approach it. And I love what you shared about working through that with your and
Mhm.
not just, don't make that decision in a silo, right? Get her feedback, get her input and make it together. That's really cool. I'm curious your thoughts on from a leadership perspective. So thinking about just our mission, right, is to reinvigorate male community leadership. um, want to get your thoughts on maybe, I guess, how are we doing, with achieving with that. But would also love to hear just the journey with the Labyrinth and some of the experiences you got to have with starting that new site.
Sure. So how are we doing with developing, male leadership? I think we're doing well. I'll start there. And the reason I feel that is, we've just got this platform that facilitates leadership growth. But I would have to caveat that with it's available for those that want it. It's a
Hmm.
classic. You get out of something what you put into it. So it's there. I mean, it's a classic. If you want to go all in like Gator does, which is great. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey, he's always pinging me. Hey, you want to go do this? You want to go do that? I'm like, dude, yes, I do want to, but I can't tonight.
Hmm.
But you've got everything, right? You've got the social aspect of it with the happy hours and some of the. You've got the third F aspect of it that we were talking about earlier. That you can, like Vandalay reached out to me, I don't know, a month ago, and he's like, hey, now that you're done with the site queues thing, hey, what third F thing you want to spearhead? I'm like, what? Can I take summer on?
That's
So
funny.
I mean, there's always aspects that you can plug in and become a leader on, and there's so many guys that are willing to help you with that, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
If you're intimidated by whatever, you can do the behind the scenes stuff or whatever that is. So I love that what we've got going on from a platform standpoint, and the support that we have for guys that want to plug in.
Oh,
The Labyrinth. So that was that was a fun one. Gator and I were going. Well, when I started out, I would just wait for Gator to come pick me up. 2 doors down, and we'd go. I just go wherever Gator goes. He's like, "Where are we going today?" "Oh, we're gonna go to the Coop." "Oh, okay. Where's that?" "I'll show you." So we drive a half hour or whatever. "Where are we
yeah.
going?" So we, Gator, he just likes to bounce around, and as a result, I got to see all these different sites and meet all these different people. And with Gator, with his photographic memory, always knows everybody's name. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't
Yeah.
know the name. Plus, it's dark,
Yeah.
So, um, so, but we almost invariably would post Thursdays out at the maze, and we came to see these numbers just sustainably high. And I guess there was leadership chatter about, well, we got to find a way to take some pressure off that. So um, Gator threw out to me, would you be willing to start a new site? And of course, I'd only been doing this for like 3 months, 4 months, whatever. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm not even really in shape yet. So, but give me, so he was working on me for a long time. And then finally, I'm like, well, I've got a few caveats. One is I only have this silly Twitter account for F3. I look at it maybe twice a week, maybe. So I'm not doing that.
Hmm.
If somebody else is going to handle that, we can talk. I'll handle it. Okay. We'll keep going. So, you know, uh, eventually we brainstormed about what it might look like and all that good stuff. And I think it was the crab cakes that had the idea for Gator of, well, why don't you just do a running site and just do it up the hill? You guys can get coffee together. And that was one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the struggles that Gator and I had is that we don't want to split this kind of, I'm gonna call it core, West Omaha group up so that they can't spend the time together, like we were just talking about, the spending time in the gloom, having the conversations. We're not looking to split that up. How can we keep that quasi together? And that was the solution. So
Nice.
yeah, and Gator, he really pushed me on this one. I mean, he really did. So, and I'm glad he did. Because I wouldn't otherwise have sought this out, and I would have come up with the same excuses that probably everybody does, or that I had when deciding to even start doing F3. I'm too busy, I travel, all the things, right? Which are true.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if it becomes a commitment to you, then it's a commitment. And at least that's the way I think about it, is that if you commit to it, you're in. You got to see it through. And um, we came up with the running site concept because we just out west we didn't have one at that time, a specialty running site, and Paradise is just so popular, and it's
Hmm.
just it's great. Wanted to kind of build something like that out west, and that was
Yeah.
that was the idea behind that.
Yeah, it's been fun too because I think you guys just the relationship with the maze, right? Like running by the maze guys as they're working out, or like for the launches and the shovel passes, having those sites really come alongside each other and support each other. And that I think just happened organically. I think
Yeah.
just because of the guys in that area. So it's been really cool. And I think this morning I need to see how it turned out, but I think Barbed Wire was leading a biking, but right, he was biking
Yeah,
this
you're
morning.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that one. I thought, ooh, this will be an interesting
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Hopefully
I
they
hope
have
it went well.
helmets and lights, right? Um,
Right.
what do you think from just a leadership perspective, like your own, growth in that area? I mean, anything? Do you feel like the Site Q role kind of opened your eyes to anything that maybe you needed to focus on, or any wisdom there that you would share?
Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely did. And yeah, so you know, like I said, Gator and I talking through it. All right, we're going to make this running site, and then I had all these ideas, like, oh, I'll get the guys in shape over 2-3 months, and then we can start doing some really cool running workouts that I, used to do when I wore a younger man's clothes. And, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna ramp this thing back up again. It's gonna be awesome. And, I can't remember if it was September, October. It was, I think, the first time I was queuing that site, and I had all these ideas in mind, and then, and I was so stoked, right, to do this stuff. And uh, then who comes showing up for my queue? But a bunch of guys that really aren't that good at running. I'm like, well,
Yeah. What do I
guess I'm
do
not
now?
doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like for the first, I'm gonna say 3 seconds, I was like, God, I'm swearing like, all these things that I wanted to do, and then I had a big smile on my face, like, oh, this isn't about you,
Hmm.
at all. This isn't
Yeah.
supposed to be about your agenda. So step back and like you said, let this organically become what it's going to become, and just help foster it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And 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 that was kind of a crossroads for me, frankly, in my F3 journey was
Hmm.
that day, and, and as a result, then I just let the Labyrinth kind of become what it was meant to become,
Yeah.
and my vision for it then changed, and it became, let's make this a place where guys can come and run, can try to improve their running, can come and have those conversations like we were talking about earlier, and and have some fun. We could laugh at each other, and you know, Roadhouse brought a basketball, and we played some basketball a month or
Yeah.
two ago. So just stuff like that. Let's enjoy it, and uh, and 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 find time that we could really enjoy each other's company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love hearing sort of how, the vision when we first start some of our new sites, and then just sort of what they transform into, and they're normally not too far apart, but I think just the guys that show up, right, is we can't control that, and the way that we kind of learn from the packs what they need, right? It's like guys, there are a lot of guys that I think want to run but aren't in, like peak running shape, but they're also gaining the courage to show up, and so then,
Right.
hey, let's make sure, picking up the six, have some guys that can cater to multiple paces. And I think it's been cool to just watch the Labyrinth grow.
Oh,
Curious if you would share too, just a little bit about pit stop and that whole thing. And I think he wanted to
sure.
turn it into a coupon site, right? Is that? Uh,
Well, maybe recycling. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe cycling with coupons. Maybe that's what's coming next. Who
Hey,
knows, right?
yeah, yeah. Let's hope not. That sounds like an accident would happen.
Well, yeah. So yeah, that was one of those. This is, in my mind, an interesting one because I've watched some of the other sites and site queues select their successor. You know, and I've watched that process, and I frankly have watched it evolve over the past year, such that you know successors are being selected pretty far in advance, and I'm kind of mixed on that, honestly. I understand why, I get it, but in other ways, and maybe it's my stage in life, I just like watching uh, things grow and evolve um, as they will.
Hmm.
And I'm going to call it, like to use your word, organically. And part of my approach with Labyrinth was I didn't schedule out the schedule months in advance. I mean, usually I'd have it scheduled 1 or 2 weeks out. And so
Hmm.
whenever somebody would say to me, "Hey, do you think you can get me on the queue?" Yeah, yeah. How's 2 weeks sound? Oh, really? Yeah. Is that good? So it was kind of like when somebody wants to lead, let's let them lead, right?
Yeah.
And so March was coming around, April was coming around, end of June was the 1 year. And do you have a successor picked out? No, you know. And boy, there's a lot of chatter around that. I'm like, well, nobody's really expressed any interest or shown me, and then I kept telling some of the guys, a leader will emerge.
Hmm.
He will, and it doesn't have to be at the end of June. It could be July. It doesn't
Yep.
matter, right? So um, eventually I catch wind of Pit Stop wanting to, run a site. And so I thought to myself, well, I really don't know him that well, so I'm going to spend a little time with him. We did that. We had some good conversations. And one of the things I wanted to find in a successor, a site queue, is someone who's passionate about running, because it
Hmm.
is a running site.
Yeah.
So it turns out Pit Stop ran cross country. Uh,
Yeah.
doesn't quite look like he fits the bill, but yeah, he did. And so and he had been running uh, much in 22 because he'd injured his knee,
Hmm.
but his knee was rehabbed and recovered, and he was ready to go. So it was one of those, you got a guy that's passionate for F3, passionate for running, wants to lead a site. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
The leader emerged. So
Yep.
um, and it was literally, I'm like, okay, well, when are you ready to go? He's like, well, I've got this going on and that going on. I'm like, so like, I guess I could take it in like a week and a half. Okay, sounds good.
Let's do it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I think, because was talking to him on a run, and I think he felt like there were some folks trying to protect him from taking on too much with his wife's his situation and everything, and I think he really felt honored to like lead. He felt like, hey, I'm ready to add this to my plate, and sort of like, don't
Yep.
treat me differently because I've got a circumstance going on with my family. And I think I just think it just aligned really well, and it was cool just at the shovel pass, some of the just the the comedy that was there, right? I think he had, was kind of pretending like, oh, it's not a cinder block site, but I think yeah, it'll be a really good experience for him. I'm curious, from your perspective, like any advice or anything you would share. And maybe this is related to leading a site, or maybe it's just general life advice, but just for guys that are leading sites or showing up to workouts or just the men in our group, what sort of advice would you give them?
Huh. Well, there's a few things that F3's taught me over the past couple of years. Uh, One is, if you look at yourself in the mirror one day and you think, who's that guy? You know, you can become, the man that you think you should be, and
Mm,
the man that you think you are. You can do that again. You can become that guy again. Um, one of the impetuses for me to really lean into F3 from the first F standpoint was that I wanted my children to see me as the physical athlete type. I mean, the physical shape that I used to be in when I was a younger man. They hadn't
yeah.
really seen that yet. So F3 can provide that. You know, um, but I would also encourage people to really listen to their body. I've seen guys in their 30s, even early 40s. They're pushing themselves so much, which is great. But it's the classic. Well, this hurts and that hurts, and I'm taking this week. Please listen to your bodies, guys,
Hmm.
because we are not professionals. We're just out there doing push-ups and squats and running. So um, I would also, have you understand that, as a guy who's been through different chapters of life, as I was saying earlier, you can come out the other side of these challenges. You
Mm,
just lean on the people around you that care for you. And there are a number of F3 guys who have either been in your shoes or are in your shoes, based upon what you got going on in your life. So talk with them, talk to them, and and you'll find the kind of resources that you need
mm,
at this stage of your life. The other thing I would that was transformational for me, and part of it was leading the site. Part of it has been through my Shield Lock experience. Is I'm I'm now developing, which I didn't really have. I call it sympathy or empathy, based upon the situation. I based upon the way that I've my life, the way I've grown up, and the way I've done things. I'm kind of a lone wolf,
mm,
and um, I didn't have a lot of patience for people in my younger years who weren't getting stuff done that needed to get done. I just didn't. So
mhm.
I'm not really proud of it, but it's just the way I was. And I keep, my M would keep pulling me back in of like, you need to tone that down,
Yeah.
and I did need to. And um, what being out amongst the men of F3 and hearing what they got going on in their lives, and how they're trying, has been extremely humbling. So I'm very appreciative of of that F3 has shown me. I'm going to call it the light.
Mm,
That I'm thankful for what I have. I'm thankful for the health that my family and I have. I'm thankful for the situation we have here in Omaha. Um, and and so I guess I would also steer folks that way. Is just take a look at what you do have,
mm.
and you are able to get out and about. Even if it was just like this morning, I was walking with Limu because his back's killing him. But he said this beats laying in bed and feeling sorry for myself, and it's so
Yeah.
true. Get out and just walk and come to coffee, and be thankful for that. And
Mm,
so this is not a mindset that that I had 2 years ago, but it is one that I do have now. Is that I'm thankful for what F3's provided me, and what it provides for so many other men that I get to see in the gloom, which
yeah.
is fun.
That's cool. I remember early on in F3 Omaha, there was one of the guys, I think maybe it was Nodos, had made a comment of like, I used to go to the grocery store and I would see other guys and I would immediately be like, I'm sure that guy's a jerk or, is a meathead or whatever. And then I started getting involved in F3 and I realized there's actually a lot of good guys out there. There's a lot
Yeah.
of guys that are trying, like you said, trying to do their best, trying to be good husbands, good fathers, good friends, and so it's kind of cool to just gain that empathy. I'm in the same boat. I'm like all about efficiency, productivity. Let's go, and just realizing, people are trying, right? And they're on their own journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Well, I'm curious if there's anything that you're going through maybe now, current state that guys could either be praying for you on, or when we see out there that
Oh,
that we could be encouraging you on. Anything in that
thank
space?
you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I was thinking about anticipating you might ask something like that. And, you know, one thing that I've been struggling with for several months now, honestly, is fatigue.
Mm,
And, you know, I went and have seen doctors. They've done all the tests and so on. So there's nothing wrong with you, I mean, physically that we can find. So tell me about your sleep schedule. Oh, it's this. I post 5 days a week because Ozark's closed on Wednesdays, but otherwise Ozark's, posting 5 days a week and pre-running. And they're like, what? Explain what we do. So you're only sleeping how much? Well, those nights are probably like, I don't know, 5.5, 6, maybe 6 hours, and they're like, well, that's your problem.
yeah.
So, I'm trying to find a balance now of where I can be in the gloom as much as possible, but still be able to function well, and Gator and I have been talking through how we can do that, and how he can help me with that. I mean, and so what I'm doing thus far is about 2-3 days a week. I just sleep till 6,
Hmm.
and then I just run around my neighborhood and do some push-ups and merkins and then squats or whatever, my own version. And right now I'm just posting 1, maybe 2 days a week, and my tank is getting refilled as a result, and
Okay.
feeling good. I mean, I was to the point where mentally I was just not myself. I was not alert. I couldn't get through the day without having to sleep for half an hour down in I call it the bunker, my office down at my house. So, and I looked at my sleep data that we no longer just have a computer in our pocket. We've also got
Yeah.
a computer on our wrist. So,
Yeah.
and you come to realize, holy cow, what are you doing to yourself? So, this is one of those things of, guys, listen to your bodies. If
Mhm.
you are fatigued, I mean, not just kind of tired, but fatigued, you gotta do something about it, because it's going to not only impact you, but it's going to impact your M and your 2.0s, and then your work, and then there it goes, right? All of it. So that's it. I mean, I'm on the mend, if you will. I'm confident I'll find a good balance, but that's one of the reasons I've uh, been my thin level of attendance of late has been that.
Yeah.
But pick up, back up here after Labor Day.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think I know I have an addictive personality, right? But I think it's like we all want to do all the things, right? So like I want to
Yeah.
pre-run and the beat down and the coffee and but it depends on how far you're driving, right? If you're going to a pre-run, you're getting up, that's an extra 30. For me, it's 45 minutes earlier, and I've dealt with some of that. I know on my off days, I've been getting a little more sleep, and I would agree. I think we could all probably lean into sleep a little bit more as something that we don't often promote that, right? Is like a thing
Right.
we should be thinking about. But man, I just love getting to hear your wisdom and insight and your story, and I know I've appreciated your approach. You mentioned earlier, right? It's like you're not going to just jump into advice when a guy's talking. You're going to let him talk, and but I would encourage guys to ask you just those kind of four nuggets of wisdom you shared there towards the end. I think are so valuable and applicable to all of us. So just really appreciate you as a man, as a friend, and as a leader. So I appreciate your time. Let's do a little Namerama to close it out. All right,
Okay.
I'll start us
Tim
off.
Ulrich, you want
Go.
me to start? You do it.
I'll start. It's better if
Okay.
you end it because this is all about you. Brandon Fleet Hardy, 37, The Plague.
The Plague.
Ah,
Tim Ulrich, 52, Ozark.
Ozark. All right. It's hard to do over the camera, but has anybody come up with a phrase or a call sign after Ozark? What do we say?
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I've not heard a good one.
Okay. We'll have to come up with something. Well, this was great, man. Good to see you. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Plague. I really appreciate you and what you do here, and I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
Yeah, it was good to see you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Plague.
Bye.